Welcome to a brand new week. It is Sunday, February 8th. CNN This Morning. I'm Victor Blackwell, and here's what's happening today. A week after her disappearance, Nancy Guthrie's family is issuing a new emotional plea.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her.
Plus, what we know about what police are doing at Annie Guthrie's home overnight. Anti-Olympic protests turned violent in Italy when protesters targeted police and their vans. We'll tell you what sparked those clashes.
We are still 100% motivated to try to stop this any way we can.
Officials in rural Georgia and a town there are pushing back on the Trump administration's plan to build a new migrant detention center. Why they say it's just unrealistic. And everybody, I know I will be, watching Bad Bunny when he takes the stage during the Super Bowl halftime show. But for some, this performance is about much more than music. We'll get into that coming up. First, though, the family of missing 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie issued a new plea to their mother's abductor. Authorities believe that Guthrie was taken from her Arizona home against her will. No suspects have been identified publicly in the case. As the investigation enters its 8th day, today show host Savannah Guthrie, along with her siblings, Cameron and Annie, posted a new video pleading for their mother's return, even offering to pay a ransom.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
That offer comes as a second ransom deadline for millions in Bitcoin approaches tomorrow. Overnight, the focus shifted to the home of Guthrie's elder daughter, Annie. At least 3 sheriff deputies were seen at her home late Saturday. CNN's Ivan Rodriguez joins us now from outside Nancy Guthrie's home. Ivan, tell us more about where this investigation stands now and what police may have been doing at Annie Guthrie's home.
Victor, last night, those 3 unmarked vehicles were parked outside of Annie Guthrie's home for several hours while sheriff deputies were inside. And although lights were dim and shades were drawn, bright flashes appeared to indicate that authorities were taking photographs inside of the home. They left around 10:30 a local time. And when they did leave, they left with a bag and placed it in the back seat of one of the vehicles. One sheriff deputy was also seen wearing blue latex gloves. Now, you'll remember that Nancy Guthrie was at Annie Guthrie's home the night before she disappeared, and family members then brought her back here to her home that night. And CNN has reached out to the Pima County Sheriff's Office as well as the FBI for further details on what they may have been doing at that home late last night. Now, I also think, Victor, it's important to place this newly released video by the Guthrie family into the context of this timeline, because if we go back to that first ransom note that was received by 2 local TV stations here in Tucson as well as TMZ, it indicated 2 deadlines, one for Thursday at 5 p.m., which is passed, and one for Monday at 5 p.m. tomorrow, which demanded millions in Bitcoin. Now, we know that one of the videos, the second video that was released by the Guthrie family with the son of Nancy Guthrie, was released around Thursday at 5 p.m. Now, that second note that authorities are still combing through, that was received Friday, is happening all before this last video that we're seeing now of Savannah Guthrie as well as her siblings pleading for communication again, and also saying that they will pay. So I think it is very interesting in the context of the timeline, because again, we do have that deadline that authorities have talked about for Monday at 5 p.m. And hear what one criminologist had to say specifically about that timeline itself.
Perhaps they had micro-specific details, things that only Nancy could know, that they communicated there, which at least convinced Savannah and her family that whoever sent that email does have Nancy within their control. And whether they could provide proof of life in an email, kind of, incredulous about that. But at this point, yes, we see the desperation, the exhaustion of this family. And when she says they will pay, they are going to, I'm sure, transfer some agreed upon sum of money into a Bitcoin account.
Our colleague Josh Campbell, who's a former FBI agent and worked on kidnapping cases, also believes that this newly released video by the Guthrie family indicates that there's not a direct line of communication between the Guthrie family, the FBI, and whoever allegedly abducted Nancy Guthrie. Now, if there were, he believes that we wouldn't be hearing about that communication itself. And again, that is also a point to remember here moving forward into tomorrow, that if there are any sort of communications in the future, we should not expect those real-time updates to happen, Victor.
Ivan Rodriguez outside the home of Nancy Guthrie. Thanks so much. Joining me now to discuss is CNN senior law enforcement analyst Charles Ramsey. Chief, good to see you again. First, on this search, or the activity, I should say, at Annie Guthrie's home, Nancy Guthrie's eldest daughter, what's your assessment of this? I mean, this is one of the few times we're seeing any activity searches outside of the property of Nancy Guthrie's home.
Well, you know, it's difficult to know exactly what that was all about, but she was at that home prior to her going home and then later being abducted. So it could be associated with that. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into it, but again, it's something just to kind of, you know, make a mark there to find out later exactly what it is that they were looking for, because they did leave with something after they were in the home.
Based on what you heard from Savannah Guthrie in this 20-second video that was released last night, is it clear, or are there indicators that they have received the proof of life that they've been asking for? Or is this potentially just prompted by coming up on that 5 p.m. Monday deadline?
Personally, I think that there's been some direct contact made. If this individual does in fact have Nancy and she's well, or at least alive, she would have information on how to make direct contact. Now, I've been involved in a lot of cases, and I guarantee you there's a whole lot of information that's not being made public. So there could have been some direct communication, enough to be able to convince them that the person actually has her, and even that the person is well, that Nancy is at least alive. And I believe that video was to confirm that, in fact, they will pay. Because whatever direct contact they had, it wouldn't have lasted too long, and it certainly wouldn't have been a phone call, because that's traceable. So I think there's been some kind of direct contact made, and they're pretty confident, not confident, but they're pretty, you know, willing to take that risk that she is alive and well and will be released.
It's been, at least from my memory, a very long time since we've seen a ransom situation like this, high-profile individual. What happens now as they approach that Monday deadline? I mean, most people see this in movies, but what is really the process? And how much does law enforcement influence that?
Well, law enforcement, in order to make sure that she stays safe, would probably stay back. I mean, they would not be anywhere near wherever the site is where she would be dropped off. Now, the transfer would occur electronically. There would be some arrangement for her to be able to be brought to some location, probably unknown, and she'd be able to then reach out and contact them and then be picked up. So I don't know. I'm just speculating, but you know, there would have to be some arrangement made for her to be able to get back to her family once the payment is made.
Yeah. And so, again, there was the initial deadline. There's now this 5 p.m. There is this communication, you believe. Is that less of a hard deadline that maybe these